This is Movietone. Leslie Mitchell reporting. The Battle of France has already moved many miles inland, but the evidence of our victorious attack on the coast of Normandy remains. The Anglo-American allies, said Mr. Churchill on D-Day, are sustained by about 11,000 first-line aircraft. Well, part of the work of a fraction of that great force can be seen quite clearly down there among what were once Germany's anti-invasion defenses. Every few yards, a bomb crater. During the night of the 5th of June, Bomber Command alone dropped well over 5,000 tons of high explosive on 10 coastal batteries. This is what the ground looks like after a concentrated bombing attack 1944 style. Between the 1st and the 6th of June, the Allied air forces flew 31,000 sorties. Further evidence of modern Allied air power is in the grim scene in this town in the Cherbourg Peninsula, Boulogne, after the Americans had entered. The Germans were eliminated by a terrific bombardment. Already, in this beginning of the liberation of France, many towns and villages have escaped serious destruction during the drive on Cherbourg, but Boulogne, for inevitable military reasons, came in for the heaviest battering of all. The center of the town was totally destroyed, and ruined buildings likely to collapse had to be demolished, of course. As the Americans closed in on the great Atlantic port, they captured a number of takeoff installations for flying bombs. In spite of elaborate camouflage, which included metal leaves in the overhead netting, the smaller installations had been spotted and bombed by 9th Air Force marauders. There was also one enormous emplacement which was captured before it had been completed. The main ramp was 750 feet long, 70 feet wide, and 50 feet thick. A 1,000-pound bomb had had little effect on it, and of course protection for the doodlebugs and their equipment was also very considerable. Anyway, whatever the Hun's using, or may yet use, buzz bombs, rocket shells, or whatnot, he won't win the war that way. On the contrary, by the fall of Cherbourg, he's a long way further towards losing it. Allied sea power as well as Allied air power has made possible our victories in Phase 1 and 2 of the Liberation Plan. British and American warships bombarded Cherbourg. They included HMS Glasgow and Enterprise, and the American ships Nevada, Tuscaloosa, and Quincy. Sea power, having made the landings possible, here took a hand in the battle ashore. Enemy batteries replied, but casualties in the ships were few and damage only superficial. Ashore, evidence of the effect of air and sea bombardment was rapidly accumulating as the Americans, their flank secured by United Kingdom and Canadian troops, advanced. Big guns, part of Hitler's impregnable Atlantic wall, had been well and truly silenced and smashed. In less than 3 weeks from D-Day, the Allies had not only secured their western bridgehead into Europe, they were also in the process of taking one of the finest deep-water harbors that Europe has to offer. In fact, the Americans were in Cherbourg. These are the first pictures of fighting in the streets, mopping up snipers, knocking out strong points, and taking prisoners. The Germans said and hoped and perhaps even thought that Cherbourg would stand a long siege. That was at first. Then they said it had no military value, even announcing its loss before it had completely fallen. 4 German divisions were cut off there, as well as administrative personnel. Everywhere, as each street, pillbox or fort was taken, more and more prisoners were captured. Some women are seen with one batch. They're certainly not French snipers, for there were none. Possibly women employed by the Todt organization on the fortifications. The German garrison had been ordered to fight on with the death penalty for attempted surrender. And at many points they did fight on. But street by street, fort by fort, the Americans extended their occupation of the city, wiping out resistance, rounding up more prisoners. Cherbourg has no military value, said Goebbels. Fight to the last drop of blood, said the German commander-in-chief. Some fought on and were killed, but others, the great majority, were eventually compelled to cry Kamera. From one pillbox after another came the white flag of surrender and men of the invincible German army with their hands above their heads. Indeed, the Americans, quite rightly, insisted on the hands being held at the correct elevation. Cherbourg has no value, screamed Goebbels. Fight to the last drop of blood, ordered the commander-in-chief, General von Schlieben. But from the safety of a deep bomb-proof shelter, he himself surrendered. Both he and Rear Admiral Hennecker, entrusted with the sea defense of Normandy, surrendered to Major General Collins. And Cherbourg was ours. Brilliant work by the Americans, superb cooperation by all the Allied forces on land, sea and air had given the Allies this great prize. With the surrender of von Schlieben and the capture of all Cherbourg, Phase 2 was over.